Welcome to the 1 Million Years of Joy podcast. I'm Dr. Andrea Benaker, your host, and my intention is to inspire you to find more joy in your life through the stories from our guests and the science on joy and purpose. Claude, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Great to have you.
Claude, you've had an incredible career for over 40 years in the wealth management field. I'm curious to learn what have been some of the highlights of your career and what have been some of the biggest sources of joy that you have discovered along the way that you did not anticipate when you began your journey in this field.
I think it relates mostly to a sentiment of freedom. Freedom to choose. Freedom to choose who you're going to be working with. Freedom to choose as to the amount of time you're going to put into the business and the capacity that has grew over time, how to best make a contribution to people you work with. And that has kept on growing actually over the years. And I found that it was a place also, although I've been to the same company for some time, 40 years now, there was always a way to reinvent yourself, to move on, to grow, and make a contribution. It's actually in the culture of our company to make sure that people strive, that communities grow, and that you can help people along the way. And given the youth also following in our footsteps, there's a lot of talent, and you can be mentor or coaches to them, and I think it's a great opportunity. And the wisdom that comes from having spent so many hours and days with people from different countries and with different cultures that brought about wealth, I think, to our country and that have made a difference in our lives is a privilege. So I found that to be what I am most enjoying in our business to date.
Wonderful. So tell me about the reinvention. How have you reinvented yourself through the years?
Yes. Well, interestingly enough, I came to this business and we were actually glorified salesmen, I must say. And we're selling financial products, so we needed to be in the know of those products. But ultimately, we were salesmen, and we needed to meet the needs of individuals for those products. But then I realized that if you are selling products, well, you're limited to what you have at hand. And I thought it'd be much more fun if we could offer more. And also, over the years, the technology and all, we were getting commoditized. The access to what we offered became easy. So it was time to really shift and start making a difference by offering clients financial planning for one. Also taking some time on understanding entrepreneurs and their issues. And a lot of that was about their relationship with themselves, their families, their community, and also doing something to be healthy, financially, physically, mentally, and supporting those around you so that as a community, we're all better off. And that's when a good sense of purpose took place in my business. And that's where I had the most amount of shifts. So I went from overseeing 600 families to 24 families. So where I could make most difference and still take care of those that I had met by finding for them places where they could go to get service. But I wanted to be on the mission of awareness to leading richer lives with strategic intent by design for my clients.
Can you dive deeper into that? I'm very curious because there is a component clearly of purpose and finding joy amidst the wealth that a lot of the clients that you work with. So what have you learned from those individuals that have found optimal joy amidst the wealth through a clear purpose?
Not every one of my clients may have reach a level where they have a greater sense of purpose, and I think that those that don't have that in their life are missing out in a way. But for those that have, it was interesting. I took a training, a master program called Strategic Coach. It was a 3-year program, and after spending 13 years there, the founder said to me, he says, "Claude, there's nothing like a slow learner with a deep pocket. It's not because I had a deep pocket, it's not because I'm slow, it's because I just love understanding how entrepreneurs think." So most of my clients would come from different countries. They came here by necessity. did not come here for joy. They may have seeked joy, but the reality of it is that they were leaving a country where life was difficult. They wanted to find a place of opportunity and a place to educate their family in a safe manner. So they had to work. They had to work hard, and they had to be ingenious, and they had to create value. And in creating that value, they were able to build a financial fortune over time. I don't think any of my clients feels rich because they had to work so much. And what they accumulated is not money to spend, but it's buildings, it's enterprises, it's what have you. And also paying the studies for their children to get a better education they may have had. And then right around that, we're talking about purpose. So when they sell their business and they have a financial wealth, sometimes they're a bit lost of it, not knowing what to do next. That's where I like to intervene and really have a conversation, as you do today, about a greater sense of purpose. So what is this money to be used for? What purpose do you want it to have it? How do you want to be remembered as you move on into your life? What difference where you want to make? Who do you want to have benefit from this? Who has helped you along the way that you could support? So it's all these questions we need to think about and then empower them with a plan and a clear vision by having a conversation, really simple conversation about what needs to happen in your life for you to be happy with your progress. And then bringing it back to happiness, purpose, and actually actualization so that you deliver on what you're promising yourself to accomplish.
So Claude, you have your own foundation as well and have been involved in various ways in many philanthropic causes. Can you share more details around how you actually chose to get involved in specific causes and why they were important for you?
I had to reflect a bit on how to best get started. But the beauty is that when I came to Montreal in 1980, I had the privilege of going with the president of Centraide. She took me around Montreal to see where she felt a lot of the help was required. And it was help around people in need. People with maybe less opportunity, people with illness, people with drug addiction, people on skid for different reasons. And to this day, that's something that I take to heart. I keep on finding ways to take the metro and see where the pockets of needs are. And I'm privileged. I feel that, I'll give you an example. Just recently I was visiting a friend of mine who is an importer of boots, winter boots and what have you. And as I asked him, how's business? Well, he said, you know what, it's not that easy because people go on to larger platforms like Costco and something and buy a pair of boots. They try it on for a month, and when there's less snow, they bring it back. So first thing you know, there's 200-300 pair of boots that are just laying around. It was kind enough after I asked him if I could have those boots and pass them on to people in need. And I find like a salesman all of a sudden, but nobody has to pay a price. And I just love it. And then speaking with people, taking time to get to know their issues, what their real needs are. I then can come back with sleeping bags, blankets, scarf, underwears. It's amazing all the things they may need. Basic stuff, really. And how appreciative they can be, or not. But yet, I always feel good doing so. That's from something that's more hands-on. As it relates to the structure and having monies to give to different causes, I'm being privileged again, having had 4 children, all of whom came at Saint-Justine. I became a bénévole at Saint-Justine for about 12 years, where I acted as Santa Claus. Best job in the world. Kids love you. You got gifts to give and what have you, and that's terrific. I was accompanied by a young fellow who was a photographer. And that photographer, ultimately 4 or 5 years later, had a child. And that child came with deficiencies. And unfortunately for him, it cost him deeply in his relationship, in his marriage, in his economic welfare. And I said, isn't that a shame? And that's when I thought I could get started with people from Saint-Justine. And then we met other people after that who had similar issues. Hence les petits rois and what have you. There's all sorts of people out there that need help. Just recently, my wife and I just agreed to support Saint-Justine. Part of it is to give people that finish in medicine the opportunity to keep on studying further for a term of 2 years if you want. So we sponsored the 2 bourses d'études at Saint-Justine for 2 people. And then subsequently also we give money for the cancer research for youth, you know. So we try to think of things where we can make a difference. But the beauty is as you go and meet people on the board and what have you, people have all sorts of interests. So today I've got to meet quite a few mécènes that support the arts and what have you. So as I program my giving with them, I can bring them also to support causes of my choosing, whether it be Portage for the drug rehab center or Chez Doris for the women's shelter. And sometimes it's just little gestures. It's a question of a cultural endeavor. Like we buy from l'itinéraire, we buy 2,000 pre-paid lunches so that when we see people on the street, as opposed to give them money, we can give them a little card. And that card would take them to grab, a full lunch. We do so by saying, you need to know about it, you need to use it, you can throw it away, it's prepaid for you, but then bring a friend along. So how many friends we'd like to bring? 2, 4, 6, and you guys can just go there and get shelter, get a place also to eat, and I think it's great. So it takes different forms, and I'm sure people can do it in different ways. We also like to support very talented people, whether it's violinists, piano players. So this year we'll be supporting some pianists here, one from Canada, one from Italy. Last year they were violinists from the Swiss. So any daily gesture we can get involved with, and we get to be made aware of, we like to help. Last year it was a mother of 4 working at Desjardins, and that we got to know that her son had a brain tumor, and he could not be playing soccer, and he was teased by his friends because he had a plaque on his head and he lost some hair and all. So when we got to find out about that, we asked ourselves, can somebody evaluate him to see where he has talent as a substitute to playing soccer? And music seemed to be it. So in a matter of 48 hours, we send a nice Yamaha piano for him to play on, and also we prepaid his schooling for piano lessons. And about 3 months later, we got a nice little video clip showing us that he's playing on the piano there. It was really touching. So, and also I'd like to give anonymously. I mean, today we talk about it, but typically we don't want to associate our name to the actually I just changed the foundation name to Humane Foundation. So just to help you mainly so that you can have a better life.
And is this actually a big source of joy for you in your life?
Funny, that's a very good question. It is. The fact that I speak about it is a bit embarrassing because I feel that we're so privileged, it's easy to give. But yet, on the other hand, you still have to go through the motion of doing it. But the satisfaction that I get. 2 weeks ago, I was invited to the township, so then I take the metro, I hitchhike, take the metro, get to work. My wife picks me up at 4, and I said, every Friday I give supplies to people at the same spot, and every Monday mornings. So they know that I'm there, and I cannot not go because the people on the street got accustomed to me delivering on the thing they asked me to bring. So she came with me, and that was the first for her. And she felt scared, and she wanted to stay in the car. I opened up the trunk in the back, and I've got all these supplies giving out, and it's just nice, And at some point, I needed help, so she came out of the car, and somebody came to her and said, just the attention that she's given that fellow by asking him a question about himself, his life, his needs, what he's going through. The guy was so appreciative. That was touching. So as we left with my wife, I said, what? That's what it is. That brings us joy. And I'm touched when I think about it because I don't think it would likely have been the case, but I sometimes think it could have been me, that would have gone unskilled, taking drugs or just being unlucky with my health or being out of a relationship that's not working or what have you. People have their stories. I can say, though, that there's a lot of mental health issues out there. And that's why I'm really proud of our team at the bank. Nadine is our president in Quebec. She's involved in the community. She's involved in with the youth, kids program and what have you. So I'm proud to see that people are taking care of the health issues from a mental standpoint, especially after the pandemics. It's difficult on the parents, it's difficult on the kids. People lose a bit of sense of direction, and what was des acquis seemed to be lost at time. So there's a lot to be said and done on that front also, as you know.
I'm curious to learn what were the fundamental experiences in your youth that have shaped your desire to make such a positive contribution to society today?
You know, it's interesting that you would ask. It's like doing pottery. I do pottery, and I didn't realize, it came back to me, that my mother was doing pottery when I was a kid. She had a studio, not of her own, but she would go to, and I went there a couple times. And in fact, this piece here is one of hers. And I'm glad I've had it. After her passing, somebody gave me that piece. But basically, I think it's from my family to some extent. My dad was I'd come to terms that he had made money in construction, iron work. And he came to us when we were kids, and he came to us, said, I'll do what I like. And we may not have the same income, but everything's going to be all right. I don't know what he was talking about anyway. But so then he decided to do the things he liked most. And what he liked most is to lead major projects in Canada, in Quebec, in Canada, and around the world in construction. So he became the president of La Vallée International. And that's what he's done, and he was called upon to lead major projects. So I didn't get to see him very much. But staying at home with my mom was quite the thing. We were 6 kids in 6 years. And when 68 came about, c'est le printemps de Prague. And then at that time, the world was closing into that country. But because my folks had worked with people in 67 at the Czechoslovakian pavilion, they decided to take a full plane of some 350 people on the plane that came and lived at our place. We had a pretty large property on the water in la campagne, and so they put up some tents. They put up des roulottes, the construction shacks, if you want, for those that were pregnant or older people, but the rest live in tents. And within 3-4 months, they just let people know that these people were here. Whoever wants to help can help, and what have you. And I didn't realize that how much impact that had on me. So basically, is that the people that come here, not of our own choosing, starts with whatever they can muster up in their hands when they come here. But they have determination, they have education, they have drive, they have needs, and also they need to learn the language. So they go through so many steps to make it. Not everybody will make it, but they will still survive, and some of them will strive and make a difference. So I think that's where it stemmed, from those kind of act of goodwill that my mom tended to have. She would pick up hitchhikers, she would help people all the time, she would gather clothing from haves to give to have-nots. So I was seeing this, and one of my aunt, the same thing, my grandma. I lived with my grandmother, one of them when I was 11. She'd do the same thing. She kept on picking up clothing and giving it back to others. And today I find myself, I say, hey, Grandma, it's been so many years since I saw that. I never thought I'd do the same thing. And I take pride in that. And also enjoyment, to your point, yeah.
Have you seen this propagate through your 4 kids as well?
Oh, yes, it's amazing. It's a bit of a joke. We drive motorcycles, some of my kids and I. I don't like the traffic, and I find it's a nice way to commute in town. So one morning, I'm on Park Avenue. There's people from the up north that are on the street, and I'm giving cards to people for different meals. And what do I see? There's another group a bit further down the road, and it's Marie-Hélène, my daughter. She's doing the same thing at the same time. So yes, Marie-Hélène, my third daughter, has taken part in assisting people directly. She's been active at Portage also, taking care of the benevolence when it's time to do fundraising. And it gives her the opportunity to sit around a table selling tickets in the evening to possibly 10 or 12 billionaires that are there. At the same time, she knows to care enough to help someone on the street that has nothing to give in return but a nice thank you, and also feel good about it. So yes, some of the kids have gotten involved in different ways. Absolutely.
And it's when you were making the reference before about being Santa Claus at the hospital, it's almost like you're now the Santa Claus every single day. And now your kids are becoming yes. Santa Clauses in themselves just through the generosity and all the beautiful actions that you and your family are taking.
It's funny that you say that. My wife made me realize last time when she was with me, she said, do you know that they call you Santa Claude?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I didn't really pay attention because, and also there's, it's interesting. On the street, people have their own rules. And sometimes I come in with so many boots or scarves or something, people just want to jump into it. And there's one that's always there. Please be respectful for Santa Claude. And given a chance to look at your size, because if they start getting all the boots out, they got 12, 10, 8, women, men. So if you just start picking in there, it's going to be a mess, So I'd rather ask them, what's your size, and you need dry socks, or all that kind of stuff. Yes. So it's an extension of Santa Claus in a way. Yes, absolutely.
I'm curious to get your view on all the clients you have worked with that are high net worth individuals. And I'm sure you have seen potentially some that have been just focusing on chasing wealth, possibly at the detriment of relationships, at the detriment of purpose. What is the dark side that you have seen through your career?
I've seen quite a few, and it's very, very, very sad. Among the courses that I've taken along the years, to change, like I was saying, from salesman to portfolio manager to financial planner to today, I feel that I'm just a family wealth advisor. And wealth, we need to define. What true wealth is not money itself. Money is a resource that we really need and is useful. But there's much more to wealth. I can see wealthy people without money, and I can see rich people without wealth. That's an interesting one. Yeah, so I do have 2-3 families, unfortunately, that have not made the switch yet. They associate their wealth with the suffering they've had to have it. And I have very sad cases where someone's been asked to marry in a country. They come here. 2 years later, they have a child, they're married, then the dad dies. They're left alone with a company they don't understand. They can't speak the language. It's difficult. The insurance money comes in. We invest it, and we go from $50,000 to $100,000 to $2 million to $20 million, but all in suffering. And they have that one child that's now 60, that's not even entitled to anything, because the mother thinks that she hasn't learned how to be respectful with the money and all this. In the meantime, it's the bickering, it's the fighting, it's the arguing, it's a lack of enjoyment in life, it's a lack of giving back. When you're sitting at 80 years old with $20, $30 million in the bank, I find that very sad. And I take it at heart. The only thing also, what I see is sometimes some families build up wealth, and one of the family members who feels has been left behind when their parents are sick, take away money from the family, and they become empowered with documents that give them the rights to look after their parents, when in fact they look after the money, not the parents. Or other situation where kids realize there's so much money out there, they want to sue their own parents because they say, it's not coming to me fast enough. This is something that I have a big issue with, and I try to convey people to talk to one another. Because being trained as a family counsel facilitator, I just like to make sure that why don't we just get around the same table? And the beliefs you have about somebody not being good because at 16 years old, they were playing the music too loud in their apartment. Like, that child is 60 now. You didn't like your husband 30 years ago? You don't know the husband. Like, I don't know. I find that very sad. I do see cases like that. I try to only welcome today people that have an open mind, children, and that are willing to develop a greater sense of purpose and also give the means to their intentions. I get much more enjoyment in doing that, and helping people also having a greater sense of direction in their lives by having more clarity about what needs to happen to be happy and to do well and to make a difference in the world. That's where I get the most amount of excitement. The other ones, I'm just trying to get a solution, and it seems that it's hard to prevail, unfortunately. Yes.
Are there specific projects or initiatives that you aspire to pursue beyond all the wonderful things that you're doing today that you can share with us?
That's quite interesting. In light of the pandemics, it seems that I've closed out from a lot of relationship. And I'm probably not alone, because it always takes two in a relationship, with three or what have you. So that has closed out. And then, so give me time to reflect, give me time to, do more pottery. And now my wife has gone into the idea of doing some work around flowers. And she's taken her course, and she likes to gather flowers. And what we wanted to do, what we started to do, is get flowers from funeral homes, bring them here. Suzanne rearranges them, and we bring them to different organizations, old folks' homes and what have you. So the idea is to make a difference with the resources you have. That's the concept. So it's not large project. I usually like large projects, but right now everything is small. So pottery, I'm doing pottery again, and I love it. So I spin clay. I like working with elements. It's a moment of stillness. I listen to a bit of jazz. I get to play with the clay, water, fire, hair, just the basic things of life, and produce something. And I try to have those pieces have a meaning to someone. So it's either in memory of somebody, or alternatively for a cause that I have in mind that I like to. I know they will have possibly an encant, and it'd be nice for them to have some pieces to sell. It gives me joy also to sell pieces at high prices. It makes me feel like they're valuable, but people are actually sponsoring a cause. So these are not large projects. To the contrary, I think I'm going to smaller projects as opposed to large projects, and stay away from consumptions, but more so into experiences. So there's much more travels to be done, I think. 20 years ago, I really made a decision that it's not all about the money. So about 20 years, 25 years ago, I decided to work in a way where I could have a lot of freedom, a lot of time. And my greatest asset today is that freedom, is having time. So for the kids, it allowed us to sail in Turkey, sail in Greece, just go around in different countries and enjoy as a family. As you do, I gather. When I hear about the things you do, as you've been to Japan recently, I think, what marvelous. I'd like to be doing these kind of things. It's just that, but in terms of projects for the community, it's going to be small but ongoing. I want to make sure there's some ongoing difference, as opposed to just putting a Band-Aid here and there. It's also involving other people with wealth to support causes, and people are much more receptive than I thought. Also, there's cultural in Quebec. People are not they're givers in a way of maybe helping out here and there, but it's not structured where it's got a lot of impact. So that's probably something where I'd like to spend a bit more time also, is education around that, to the people with means, financial means to do so. Yeah.
And as a final question, what do you believe we need to do collectively as a society to elevate the joy, bring greater harmony and less suffering into this world?
It's a pretty large question. It could be quite simple. The first thing that came to mind is love. The first thing that came to mind. Second would be presence. Awareness of the power of presence, and getting to know the person in front of you. Getting to know what they're about. Having some empathy. Caring about the other a bit more than yourself, even if it's temporary. And give attention to issues and people. I think if we start with that, we get to realize, like we see the wars going on now. There are two sides to the coin. People have their motivations. If they've done this to me, I'm going to do that to them. So if we can just take a minute and stop, and look at the damage you're creating, the impact it has on them, the impact it has on you. Is this desirable? PCD is an acronym for me. Is it possible to bring improvement? Are we capable of making changes? And from a standard, the P is for the purpose. Is it desirable and purposeful? So if we can bring those changes, then let's start somewhere. And I think it's by taking time, having the conversation, bringing clarity to issues. I found when we have clarity, we have direction. When we have clarity and direction, then we have a sense of purpose. I think all of a sudden we're somewhere else. So if we can do that more and more, a difference can be made. And I think we're more than ready. We see a lot of people around the world where some narcissistic are leading countries. And it's through a lot of strength, a lot of imposed dominance on people. And I think it goes against where I think we ought to go collectively. And it's sad that people feel that having democracy is a sign of weakness, when in fact it's a way of assuring that everybody has their place under the sun, as opposed to be dominant and dominated. So we need to be inclusive much more, and we can always improve. We can be the best we can be, and if it's a common desire, that'd just be terrific, to be the best we can be in thinking of others as much as we can think about ourselves. That would make a difference.
Great. On these beautiful words, Claude, I want to thank you for your time. It's been such a pleasure to have you here and really to see all the wonderful things that you're doing in this world. Thank you.